Can we see them in the front?
I can see it here.
Yeah, do it right now.
And you can clap away.
He was so passionate about it, he was so committed, he was so respected, he was so driven. He was just so good. He was so good at the job. And the way him and Noel worked really well together. The football stuff, the off-the-field stuff. I think it was just one of those things where everything came together perfectly. I don't think you can manufacture it. You can't recreate a Brian.
Magic players, not magic managers, magic players. I can't kick many balls.
I guess it was the start. It gave me the belief that maybe I belonged in the big time.
We were a power in European football at the time. It was just mates, just all mates who played with each other in the junior leagues or against each other in the All Ireland competitions.
You felt like it was another like group of parents almost. They kind of took you, gave you a big handshake, big hug, and it was straight into understanding of we can win here no matter what team we were playing.
That was the start of my career. That was the start of something that I was hoping there was going to be a success. You know, and it has to start in certain places. And for me, it was, you know, the start was in Iron Appa in Cyprus, where we had an unbelievable team spirit, unbelievable manager and coach, and just everything just felt right there. Everything felt right, it felt comfortable. It felt that this green jersey fitted me perfectly and that I want to wear this for a long, long time.
There was certainly a sense that in a footballing context, we were sort of making some progress. We had a bunch of young players who were coming out of largely out of big estates around Dublin, which were in many cases not great places to be. Tala at the time was very underdeveloped, and so it was remarkable the number of lads who came out of there, given the quality of the facilities they would have been playing on out there. It was a great, really great feel-good story. The senior team, we qualify for tournaments and we go out there and we're hard to beat, you know, like, well, you'll never beat the Irish, yeah, for sure. But, you know, here was an Irish team that wasn't just hard to beat, we were beating other teams, we were beating good teams, you know, we were winning tournaments.
Something special just happened for those 2 or 3 years, which hasn't happened since.
I think the Charlton era and the fact that we could win and found a way to win, 99% of the people in the country didn't care how we were doing it, we were just glad we were doing it. I cared. And some other serious football people cared a bit and I didn't enjoy looking at it. I was there at a lot of the matches. But to be honest, I was busy at the time managing Pats, and it was much more important to me than how the Irish team did. I was much more engrossed in that and enjoying it and loved the struggle and the battles. There was great people around the league, but we were kind of ignored. We were separate from the international team, so we had no involvement in it. Because I saw the demise of our youth international teams, the lack of respect towards them, and it annoyed me. And that's actually why I applied for the job. My intention in applying for the job was that if I got it, I would try to restore a bit of order to it and give the job the respect it deserved. I just put a note in the door one night. We'd actually beaten Shamrock Rovers on a Friday night, and I was in very good form. And I knew it was a closing day. I think it was 5 o'clock was the closing time. But I decided late that night, after having 1 or 2 beverages and a sandwich or 2, that I would get down to Merrion Square and put a note in the door saying I was interested in the job. We were kind of conscious of bringing them in to our bubble, our Irish bubble, our Irish international bubble, which I'd like to think was a very welcoming, calm place with good discipline, but great fun and great encouragement, and the idea of giving players confidence and giving them some guidelines on the future as well, but giving them confidence that they could achieve extraordinary things.
We'll go and watch it. If you're playing in England and you might be playing a reserve game or you might be playing an underage side, and you'd be in the back arse of nowhere, you'd go watch it and you'd go for a meal with you afterwards and you'd have a chat with you.
He's just inspires you just to be around him, and he talks so much sense. Himself and Noel genuinely believed we could go there and win, and whatever he was telling us was what he believed was the truth.
Now, do you just want me to run through who's who? That's Desi Baker, Neil Fenn, Brendan Murphy, Glenn Crowe, Neil Inman, Colin Hawkins, Paul Whelan, Derek O'Connor, Aidan Lynch, Damien Duff and Dave Worrell.
I guess the first memory of the meet-up was being in a sauna in a steam room with Brian in our fully coated heavy jackets, rain jackets, everything, and he'd have us doing star jumps and high knees and mad stuff.
We got them to try and adapt to the conditions we're going to face in Malaysia. So we're trying to mimic those conditions, if it's possible to do that in Limerick and to pretend that you're in the deep Malaysia.
You know, people go all scientific now to, you know, what you should do and what you shouldn't do, but again, if I was going now with a group of lads, I'd look down that line because it just builds up your tolerance, your strength to it. You know, lads want to give in after 20 seconds, this is too hot for me, because it was that hot in Malaysia. You'd lose, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 kilos in a game, and I said you'd want to get out of the steam room or the sauna after 30 seconds because you're so hot, but you wouldn't be allowed out. It just builds up your tolerance and you just get used to it. And then we went off on a plane to Malaysia. It was simple as that. You knew you wouldn't see your mum and dad for 3, 4 weeks, didn't have mobiles, nothing like that, but it's where I wanted to be.
Niall O'Reilly used to slap me before every game in the face, like proper. He used to like proper slap. What's he doing there? But just get you motivated. And I remember even driving to the games, we all had our earphones in. You could just see we were all just so psyched up that we just wanted to give 150%.
Yeah, I think that the scary thing about Ghana was they started singing like songs and everything else in the tunnel, and we're all looking at each other going, God, and they all look big and physical. And for us, I think that was the thing. Would we be able to stand the heat and the humidity?
Ghana had won the World Cup under 17. They were a very good side, and the conditions were obviously particularly difficult for us. The temperatures were up in the 30s. Humidity was just draining. You were in a lot of sweat, just walking around without even trying to play football in a massive big pitch.
Ghana beat us 2-1, but it certainly didn't leave us thinking that we're out of our depth here. We always thought we could win the next one.
We're kind of ripping it up in this World Cup, so I started sort of following it from then and just following it all the way to the semi-final. Just the very fact that Ireland were doing very well in a World Cup of any level was quite a big deal.
Last match with China, we just needed to avoid defeat, which we did. 1-1 draw, great game, under pressure. Again, playing against a team that the conditions obviously suited. We're much more used to the humidity and temperatures than my kind of red-faced, freckled, ginger-haired boys. But we played very well, and the football we played was really good. We were under pressure because China had to win to stay in it. It was always about playing football and playing to players' feet. We couldn't afford to bang it and chase it. We hadn't got the players who could do that, and we hadn't got the conditioning that could do that. We had to conserve our energy. We were often, allowing teams to come onto us and then intercepting it and then playing on the counter, using the ball into Neil Fenn's feet to be the hold-up player, playing off him, getting Damien into the match. That style of football. But we got some great goals on the counter-attack.
I just remember the ball coming back to me and just having a swing at it and it going in. So they were just tense games. It was just a World Cup and it's the elite players, so it was tough.
The night before the last 16 match against Morocco, Damien went down with a fever. It was probably gastric, and 2 in the morning he had a temperature of 102.
I don't know, it wouldn't have been something I was eating that I ate, but it was definitely a virus, whatever. I had it for a couple of days, didn't get out of bed.
So I stayed up the night, sponged him down. Then he went for sleep, and about lunchtime, I didn't think he was going to be right. And myself and Kieran brought him out for a walk, and first he was just jogging. Then he started to jog, and we brought a ball with us, and he started to dribble with it. And then he got more. It was like, I suppose what they say, the sound of trumpets to the old war horse, although he wasn't an old one. Brian accused me of using some sort of weird medications to get him right.
Don't know what the doc gave me. He could give you anything, to be fair, Conal, but...
Playing two things, discipline to bring down his temperature and also sponge him. And then he passed himself fit and he scored the winning goal, a golden goal they were experimenting with in extra time. And I still remember that goal because he beat two men and then veered off to break the keeper's angle. But his run, our dugout and the goal were in a straight line and he was running along that line. Before the ball was in the back of the net, we were off the bench and running.
Yeah, I got on the pitch and felt terrific. Worst game. Don't know how it lasted 120 minutes or whenever the golden goal went in.
And I think for me, that was probably my moment of the whole tournament, seeing that ball hit the net.
And I remember being so excited at seeing this young player, the little skinny lad on the left wing, been brilliant on the ball, comfortable, balanced, tricky, fast, acceleration to leave players, could go inside or outside, darting runs, and just been going, God, what a player.
Listen, he always had a soft spot for me, and he just wanted me to play.
I think that once we beat Morocco, then we're looking and then you're thinking, right, there's only 3 games to go, was it? So
players were having to rely on what I told them from bits and pieces I picked up, whether it was from highlights or bits of matches that I saw or wherever I managed to dig out a bit of information. But I was happy once I saw Spain that we could devise a plan to beat them. But I remember being confident in my own head that we could, with the way we had played and with the confidence that was growing among the players, that we could beat Spain.
The ball came across and I went down to man and then I was going to shoot and seeing a big lad coming across me, so I said I'll just take a by him. As I took a by him, he took me down and we got the penalty. Didn't even look at the goalkeeper because the goalkeeper they want to try and intimidate you, like, you know, and put you off and make you take your time and lose your bottle and all things like that. You know, wasn't having none of it.
Proud Irishman. We always think we're the proudest country in the world. We've unbreakable spirit and what have you. And he just tapped into that. He'd have us believing. You know, the games weren't even on TV until I think maybe the quarters, semis. He'd have us believing that the 4 million people back home were thinking about us that day, whether they're on a bus to work or watching it, even though it wasn't on TV. He had us believing it was, and that everybody was thinking about us and cheering us on. So it made you feel 2, 3 foot taller.
Argentina next, take on anybody at the moment.
You boy.
But they had Cambiasso, Riquelme, Walter Samuel. They had 5 or 6 players that went on to play international level.
But then you're looking through it and you're saying, right, Argentina, what was their last score? And then they were wiping the floor with teams. I'm not sure if that ever crossed our minds that we could go and win it. It was just a case of, can we just give ourselves a chance by being in the game, don't give anything away.
We were never going thinking we'd get a medal. I guess it was the belief maybe after getting out of the group, and then the second round, Spain, that's where you think, hold on a minute here, we're on a little run. So never expected to go that far. So did we overachieve, underachieve? I wouldn't like to say, but we deserved to get where we were. Obviously went to the semis, Argentina, we lost 1-0, but that game could have flipped the other way as well.
We played Ghana in the playoff for 3rd place. They had beaten us in our group in the first match we played.
The 2 goals we got, I think, were good enough to win any match and win any medal. The second goal, the construction of it, the delicacy of the pass from Thomas, and the finish by Duff shows again he's a class player.
We never even dreamed about it. Like, the notes went out a month ago. It says we 10 being the final, and like all the lads booked their holidays for now, like, so we never even dreamed about it, so it's just amazing.
When you look back at it, you think 3rd in the world for a country like Ireland, who's, like you say, never even been a shout of it before.
It's satisfying hearing other countries talking about us as being tactically astute, having great heart, being difficult to play against, good, skillful, all those things are satisfying.
Certainly in '97, it sounded so. It was like, with such a golden generation, anybody could have, come third in the world. It wasn't like that. So I think, people just liked the fact that here was somebody who could bring a lot of potential out of these young people,
I think that was the start of it. I think Malaysia, with them players, they set the ball rolling, certainly.
They've been amazing. They're a credit to all of you, their families, every club they've ever played for, every club that's ever played against them here in Ireland. And their performance is nothing short of extraordinary. Will it ever be done again? Will an Irish team ever come home from a World Cup with a medal again? I'd love it to happen, but at the moment it looks like it's unlikely.
And Ireland have crowned a magnificent tournament by claiming third place in the world. Brian Kerr congratulates his players, each and every one a hero.
My next guest is suffering from a horrific disease that's becoming more and more common in this country. It's a terrible affliction suffered by many. He eats, sleeps and drinks football. Will you give a warm welcome, please, to Mr. Brian Kerr. Brian, you did us proud there last summer. What's the secret?
I know a lot of priests.
A lot of praying.
Certainly within the teams, I think there was a confidence after '97 that each team knew coming into the next group that there was an expectancy that we were going to have to do well. But it was a newer time. That maybe Irish people were becoming more confident because of the emergence of the whole trade of Ireland and the rest of the world. Things were changing.
Everything seemed to be going well. I mean, it was like, yeah, obviously things are going to work out in the world. Everyone could get a job at that stage. It wasn't yet this situation of, even if you have a job, all your money goes in rent. It was a great time. It really was. And it was kind of a really optimistic time. It seemed as though we cracked it, actually.
My first time starting away from home, and I was looking forward to it a lot, so I feel I'm a lot fitter now and I'm enjoying it a lot.
'97, you seen obviously how well Brian had done with that team challenging in a major tournament. It was something then that obviously you're getting the feeling that there's some good quality players about and they're able to challenge on a big stage, and you want to be a part of that.
Maybe the players were coming into that era where we're no longer satisfied to be the underdog, and certainly we put that idea across to the players. Why not? We never talked about, we're not going to have much of the ball here, we're going to be on the back foot, it's going to be hard. We talked about, let's get on it, let's play, let's get at them.
I'm doing my leaving cert. Obviously you're getting ready to go to a major tournament, your first time doing that for Ireland, and you kind of have your mum and your dad, and my mum in particular, saying now you have to bring your books over to Scotland and stay on top of things, and so I managed to do that, but I don't think the books got opened too many times in Scotland.
First match with Scotland, the host 0-0, we were the better team in the match.
We didn't play as well as we could have done either, but I think the big thing, Brian and Noel, and the players that spoke about it a little bit as well, was not to lose that first game.
We went just through the group, we beat Finland the next match 2-0.
To win that second game against Finland, what a chance we have then of going through. Obviously Spain, the last game, you're thinking, we're fully aware, obviously, the pedigree and the history they had.
We beat Spain in the next match, which was an outstanding result and a great performance. Then we beat Denmark.
Obviously, after playing Finland, you know the Scandinavian teams, like ourselves, well organised, well drilled, and we just had that bit more quality and we were able to comfortably come out on top.
And we beat Portugal, who were favourites for the tournament, in the semi-final 2-0. And we played some lovely football along the way.
Brian and Noel had Portugal watched, and they'd realised that, yeah, they obviously had good quality, but they were quite physical too, and they liked to get stuck in and get a reaction. But with the group that we had at that time, inner city, Dublin or whatever, we had plenty of lads who were able to mix it and enjoy that battle.
And now we're all set for the final of the UEFA Under-16 Championship, the European Championship at this age level. And this, as I'm sure you're well aware, and you've already heard of this programme, is the very first time that Ireland have been in a major championship final.
We practiced set pieces all week and hadn't had one within range until the final. And they forgot the instructions until I let a roar at Dave McMahon that his role was to get into the wall and try and turn the first man. In fact, he acted like a JCB and knocked down the whole wall and left a big gap for Keith Foy to curl into the top corner.
And no more than they deserve.
You know, that midfield of Sean Bourne, Liam Miller, Graham Barrett, outstanding technical players. Andy Reid, Brendan McGill, pacey, small, old-style Irish wingers, I would have said. And Dave McMahon gave us a bit of strength. The back four, John Thompson right back, John O'Shea, another Centurion, Jim Goodwin, and Keith Foy left back, Joe Murphy, a goalkeeper, brilliant goalkeeper. It was a great team.
They played. Oh, the opportunity's here. Yes, got it! And David McMahon has put Ireland back in front, and Ireland are the champions of Europe for the very first time. And Brian Kerr and Noel O'Reilly have masterminded what must rank as the greatest achievement.
It's a fantastic win. I'm delighted for everyone. Win the manager, but a winning team. What a performance.
As the French technical director said to me after the final, he said, when you beat Spain, Portugal and Italy in the one tournament, you're definitely the best team in Europe.
Kerr was clearly a manager who was, you know, really passionate about all of this and very capable. And a group of players who were playing well together as a team. I think before Cyprus they'd played something like, you know, we'd played something like 16 or 17 games at different underage levels, under 16, under 17, under 18, and not lost one of them, you know. That was clearly exceptional. So suddenly, you know, there was a feeling that we weren't just going to these tournaments to make up the numbers. Getting there wasn't the achievement. Suddenly people were thinking in terms of making a real impact and potentially winning.
When we went there again, the conditions were against us. It was again very, very hot indeed. The group looked like a handful. The structure of that tournament is 2 groups of 4, and just the winner of the group goes to the final. So we know it's a difficult group with Croatia, Cyprus and England, and you know only one is going to go through to the final. But I knew we had real quality in the team.
We had defenders who would, like Richie and Jay Gavin, who was solid, very difficult to beat. So we knew that we had a good team.
In the dressing room was always quite emotional. Brian would speak from the heart. You knew it was coming. Boys felt 100% together.
We continue to believe that we have a chance of winning this, and just the team spirit that we had and the banter that we had with the players.
We played the British Army. We beat them 37-0 or something like that in a thing. And one of the things I remember was marking the centre forward, and he was like, just let us score one, like just it'd be a bit of fun for the lads. I was like, I'm not allowed. I said, I can't let you do it because the manager will be really angry. So, and then he tried to do it, and we had to stop them, you know, me and Jay Gavin at the back, we had to stop them, and that was the way it was.
We beat Croatia 5-2 in an exceptionally high quality match. It ebbed and flowed. We were 2 up. They pulled us back to 2-2 in the first half. We went 3-2 ahead before half time. The match was in the heat of the afternoon. I think it was at 4 o'clock kick-off, and it was boiling hot. But technically we were able to keep the ball and play. They had really good players, but we went on to win convincingly 5-2.
You want to prove yourself, you want to make people proud of you, and to lose any game is disappointing, but to lose against England is obviously double that. But
I remember coming off the pitch, we were devastated, you know. We didn't play like we wanted to play. It was a dead game that never was going anywhere. It was 0-0 written all over it. And they nicked one at the end. Alan Smith came on and scored.
The game, we were really disappointed because we could have done more, I thought, you know, in the game, all of us. And maybe we were a bit reserved, or maybe it was a bit emotional, you know, given the fact that it was England. It was like a derby game. We cancelled each other out.
in a twisted way, it probably worked in our favour, because after we'd beaten Croatia, we all sat down and we all sat in the pool and everyone thought, oh, look at who do these think they are. When England beat us, we done the exact same thing.
Noel and Brian brought us down to the pool, had a couple of beers, had a sing-song, and all the English players were looking out at the balcony in disbelief at us and thinking they just lost the game.
It was a real brotherhood kind of thing, like. And then I remember the next morning, everybody's mental attitude had changed. It was so positive. Everybody came down with breakfast and said, right, we're going to have another go at this.
The Eurosport adverts at the time was Sunday, Germany versus England in the European Championships final, which probably gave them a little bit of a thing, thinking they were through, and gave us the kick that we needed just to get ourselves going again, just to put that belief back in our heads.
But you just pulled us together again. We were all sat around the pool, feet in the pool, everyone sang a song. The team just went boom again.
Of course we were disappointed, but we knew that it's such a short tournament that we need to get ourselves back on track and not feeling sorry for ourselves, and that's why Brian was very good and Noel of creating a good atmosphere with the players.
And it wasn't until we really got to the hotel and the Croatian lads came in, we were celebrating with them like they were our best friends, you know. We didn't even know them, we didn't even really speak their language, but it was a phenomenal experience watching them walk back into the hotel, because we were all in the same building, knowing that them beating England had got us into the final.
England management had been very, very presumptuous about the fact that they felt that they were going to qualify for the final. I mean, Howard Wilkinson had met Brian Kerr in a hotel lobby and complained before the final round of games that as finalists, the finalists were going to have to, the management were going to have to go to Nicosia, I think it was, for a reception on the day of the final. And he was already complaining to somebody who was still in contention with him to be that finalist manager about this kind of, you know, how unreasonable this was and how he wasn't going to do it. And so that was the sort of attitude that had overshadowed the build-up to the game. And there we were a couple of hours after it, sitting around the pool with Noel O'Reilly singing, and all the players singing Leaving on a Jet Plane, you know, under the windows of the English players' hotel rooms.
It will be the second time in just 3 months that a Republic of Ireland youths team has contested a European final. Germany are the side they must beat to extend a golden run for Irish underage soccer by completing a European double.
They were big, strong, powerful lads, even from walking out, but we'd faced that before. I think we were just glad that we were there, because we wasn't really expecting to be there.
And he had some good players, of course, but we weren't scared of them. I think the problem is when you play against these teams is that it's the name scares you more than actually the players, because what Germany have done, you know, as a nation in terms of football.
And once the game kicks off and the nerves settle down and we're holding our own, we'd been in loads of games before where we hadn't had the majority of possession, but we stayed patient, we stayed calm, we didn't get too flustered, because we knew the chances would come.
We scored a truly magnificent goal. I mean, to this day, I still love looking at it, starting from the throw-in, build-up play through the middle, Barry Quinn, Alan Quinn's involved 3 times. Eventually, Robbie flicks it back with the outside of his foot.
I seen the goalkeeper running out, and from the line, I knew I would get a flick. It's an open goal for Alan Quinn's.
We just had to hold on a little bit, which, when that goal goes in from Germany in the last couple of minutes, it was probably the most worn out I've ever been on a football pitch in my life.
Once more, and the chance is now there for Lechner, but it's... Oh, they've done it! In the most dramatic fashion possible, Germany have got that equaliser.
And they scored. The beep went in Noel's watch for the 92nd minute, I remember. And a second later, the ball went into the net for 1-1. It was devastating at the time for the players, for everybody. But I remember having to go out and do the team talk before we went to extra time. And I remember saying to the players, if when we started out on this journey in Moldova, back in the desperate wind and cold and bitter conditions in Moldova, I said, remember when we started that journey, if I'd have said to you, look, we don't have to play any of these matches at all, we just have to play Germany 15 minutes each way to win the European Championship, would you settle for that? I'm sure you'd all settle for that. And they kind of nodded, and I said, well, that's how it is now. 15 minutes each way against Germany to be the European champions. We can do it. We've better players. I believe we're going to do it. And I could see in their body language that the goal we conceded had passed by. And it was now about focusing on what we could do now.
It's all over. Extra time ends with the scoreline of Ireland 1, Germany 1. And to decide this European Championship, Ireland and Germany must now meet in the penalty shootout. Sposs against O'Reilly. He saved it! What a start to the shootout! KC, 1-0. O'Reilly saved the first one. Tim against O'Reilly. It's 2-1.
Any striker, any player, you're desperate to score.
Facing Stuttgart's Timo Hildebrandt. Saved by Hildebrandt.
Yeah, keeper made a good save, but that's the way it goes sometimes. As I said, penalties is a lottery. So
when Liam George was on for the last one, I was very confident Liam would do the job.
Two things that scare me still today is I don't know why I asked for that last one, and even when I watch that penalty now, I did not feel an ounce of nerves. I walked up there, so I didn't expect Robbie to miss. You know, I was just on top of the world. You know, I'd had a good tournament. I was happy. I was confident. You know, I knew that I probably struggled less than some of the other lads in the heat. And sometimes you just take that responsibility on, but it scares me more now than it did then. I watch that footage and I don't know what I was thinking. I really don't.
When Liam was walking up to take it, I remember in my head going, you know, this is mad how much this penalty kick means to how all these players will be seen in the future and how the staff will be seen, how I'll be seen. And the thought went through my mind, if he scores it, we'll be seen as the team that won 2 Europeans in the 1 year. That hadn't happened before with any country.
But you put the ball down. I remember the walk from the halfway line very clearly. I remember bouncing the ball a few times. I remember dropping the shoulder. And as they say, the rest is history.
Ireland are the champions of Europe!
It's just been so tremendous. Everyone's friendly, like they treat you like your family. It's just been quality.
The feeling and the amount, like, it's just incredible. It's just one of the moments in my career that I look back and just smile every time I see pictures. We're in Cyprus together, European champions. It's just like surreal. Surreal, really, but we felt we achieved it all together. It was great feeling.
Just the relief of that penalty to win the last by Liam George. You know, it was just these 3-4 weeks has been well worth it. The atmosphere for the next 2 days was incredible. Nobody would ever think that Ireland would win 2 European Championships in the 1 year. And to be honest with you, I can't really say how he does it. I really don't. I haven't got a clue.
Yeah, you do all these great tournaments and great results in the tournaments, and then you do think, well, why can't we just go on and have careers as international footballers and repeat the same things over and over and over?
I took some time out this morning at 6 o'clock on the beach on my own, walked up and down, sat down and had to think about it and tried to sense it. And I must say I had a good little laugh to myself, the idea that Ireland had won both of the European Youth Championships this year, 16 and 18.
I haven't won the trophies. The players have won the trophies. Myself and Noel have put a bit of shape on it, as I said, and a bit of guidance. But the teams have won them. It's lovely to be involved. It's a very, very special time.
But it was phenomenal because it meant that all the people who had worked in schoolboy football at the ground roots level in Irish football for years now saw something tangible, now saw the players that they had helped produce achieving something almost miraculous in the achievement, and with a bit of style.
For the second time in just 11 short weeks, Brian Kerr has masterminded a championship winning performance. But who is to stop Brian Kerr?
When you're 20, you've no real concept of how unique a position we were in. To be in this generation, which was never heard of beforehand or since, where you go to tournaments, hoping, expecting to winning, and actually winning, and going with expectations of success. That was just our experience at the time. Like, we didn't realise how blessed we really were to be in that generation.
Well, we've been together for a long time, since, you know, the mid-80s with Liam Toohey, and then later with St. Pat's. I was with Brian for 7 years at St. Pat's, and we've had a great understanding of each other, of the game. I think we share lots of ideas and qualities about the game, and I think that's helped.
Well, no, he was an extraordinary guy. I first came across him on coaching courses. There was a brilliance about him from the moment you met Noel. There was a light about him. But there was a deep intelligence and a love of football, and he was always trying little tricks with the ball and showing off a few little tricks that he had. But he was a great instinct for people and their qualities, and he was very particular and precise about how things should be done in some ways. But in coaching, he had a very freestyle style of coaching. As we used to say, it wasn't always about BBC, the balls, bibs and the cones. Noel was happy enough just to have the balls. He could make a training session happen with just his body language and his voice and the ball. And players responded to him. You know, we worked well. I was probably a bit more volatile at times on the touchline, but he also knew about winning. And we both understood that, about winning and how to manipulate teams and drive teams, but also shape them into being efficient, winning regimes, let's say. He was excellent helping me in making big decisions, which I always ran by them. He was prepared to argue with me a little bit, and throw out some mad suggestions at times in relation to possibilities with the team and in terms of the shape or the personnel. But ultimately, we always came to an agreement on the right way to go. And you know, without him, I would have been truly lost. And I must say, I often felt lost after he was gone. Like all those tunes, I mean, the venues were never going to be in Iceland, you know. They were once and suited us. But in general, they were always in the hottest of places. Cyprus, Malaysia, Nigeria, in the heat of the summer.
So we arrive into Lagos Airport late one evening, and Brian has a plan. He has a plan to get up the motorway that night and to train the next morning in Ibadan. And we all just take that as read, that that's what we're going to do. But we arrive in the airport and it's stiflingly hot, and we're waiting around. And initially, I don't think we, the journalists, knew really what was going on. But it then became apparent that we couldn't go to Ibadan, and there was no real kind of plan B at that stage, because there had been this confidence that this was going to happen. Brian is like losing the head. He's demanding that we get taken up the road, you know. And there's an army officer there who I think is going to be, you know, there's going to be a motorcade for the team wherever they go. And he's telling Brian that, you know, it just can't be done. The road's not safe. And Brian is demanding, he's going, bring me one of your generals. I want to talk to the top man. I want to talk to the top man. I want to get up that road tonight. We are training in the morning in Ibadan. And so the guy goes off, and an hour later or something like that comes back with a guy. I don't know whether he was a general or not, but he was wearing a pretty serious uniform. He was pretty high up, I think, you know. And Brian said to him, I want you to give me enough soldiers to get me up that road tonight. And the guy very calmly said to him, Mister, I don't have enough soldiers.
The journey from the airport to our hotel the following day, because we were all lashing water into ourselves to hydrate, we were told to do this. We all needed to go to the toilet constantly. But the bus wouldn't stop on the road for security fears. You had to keep moving. Everywhere we travelled, we had like an armed guard either side of us. And so you had 20, 23 lads, whatever the squad was, all needing constantly to go to the jacks. But we couldn't stop. So this bizarre scene where we were all drinking water, and then we had to save the empty bottles of drinking water so that people, while still in the bus, would go to the toilet in the water. And then we'd have to obviously get the bottles of whey out of the bus. But then we realised actually we need the bottles. So we then had to work out a system where you'd be able to pour the wee out the window without any splashback on the people in the previous rows. Yes, the glamour of youth international football tournaments.
Nigeria, we were up against it, but it was a great team, and we played very well. We came out of the group. Mexico beat us in the first match, then we beat Saudi Arabia. Brilliant goal. Steve McPhail got a volley from a corner. Magnificent goal. We hammered Australia the last game in the group.
You know, I went into '99 World Cup, think we were going to go and win it, and when we got knocked out in the second round, you know, there's probably 2 times in my football career when I was distraught. It was the Henry handball, and it was '99 when we got knocked out by Nigeria. They're the 2 standouts, because I expected to go and win the World Cup, and Brian gave us that belief. And you know, for an Irish team to go to a World Cup and expect to win it, that all came from him.
Probably the one where I definitely expected us to be up and around. I felt like that group was stronger than the '98 one when you look through it. I know Damien said that about a massive regret it is for me. I think it was there for us to go and win. Getting knocked out the way we did as well, should have won the game in 90 minutes, should have won in extra time, the chances. We missed penalties in the game. It was heartbreaking, yeah, 'cause I think as a group we were really, really flying at that stage.
Everything was against us in the game other than the quality of the players, and we lost on penalties, and we were quite confident we could go on.
We had a good team, certainly against Nigeria. We certainly a team that we could have beaten easy, and if it's all ifs and buts in it, we beat them, and then God knows what could happen. But
I think by our standards, it was a golden generation. I mean, if you look at what would normally happen in an Irish team, you're looking hoping to have one or two players coming through in a year and, you know, maybe filling in for somebody taking the chance of somebody else retiring or, you know, falling off the end of the production line in terms of being, you know, 32 or 33 and needing to be replaced because their legs are gone or whatever. And yet, in these tournaments, you have whole clutches of players coming through. Obviously, Robbie Keane and Damien Duff stand out. They were exceptional. They went to Japan and made a big impact over there. You have John O'Shea coming from the under-16 tournament or the under-17 tournament in Scotland and going on to have a phenomenal career as well. But you also had a lot of other players, you know, what, 5, 6, 7 players out of the Cyprus group who go on and get captain.
None of them owe their careers to Brian. I don't think that he would say that either. They you know, they had to fight pretty hard to come through that system. I remember speaking to Damien Duff about this when he was at Blackburn, you know, as like a 16-year-old. And he wasn't like a hulking, stubble-covered 16-year-old, you know what I mean? He was like a kid. And he was in this dressing room with like big, sort of tough guys. A really difficult environment for like a shy kind of kid, like from Dublin, who's kind of missing home. And like, that's a really hard thing to come through, you know, to go through that for months and months turning into years.
What is making it is playing for your country a few times, making it 100 times, 20 times, being paid to be a footballer throughout your whole life. Is that making it? Is making money from it? Is winning? Can you be a footballer your whole life and never win anything? Is that making it? So it depends what your definition of making it is. Do I feel that I achieved everything I wanted to do as a footballer? Nowhere near it.
There's so many different factors to being a professional footballer, and one of the biggest ones is luck. You have to be in the right place at the right time, whether it's someone's bad luck with an injury gives you that little bit of good luck, but you have to have that opportunity to take it.
It's bittersweet for me, really, because we spend too much of our lives looking forwards all the time, and it's very easy for me to look at Robbie, who's had the best career ever and is obviously record goal scorer for Ireland. He's had some fantastic moves. And it's quite easy for me to go, well, I should be or should have had something like that. You know, Duff has won league titles. But at the same time, I look at my family and I look at all my friends and think, well, I was a professional footballer. You know, I played for my country. You know, I was lucky enough to win something with my country. So whenever there's a negative, there's a big, big positive. Yes, as a footballer, I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve. The frustration is, do I think I had the ability to play higher and achieve things? Yeah, I do, but injury, luck, timing, they're all massive parts of football and life in general. So my ability in my own mind has never ever been in doubt. That was because after I left Luton and after I stopped playing for Ireland, I stopped loving the game.
Everyone can't make it. It's never, I don't think anyone's come through a whole youth system as a team and all played at the highest level. It just doesn't happen.
For me, you know, I never thought I made it. You know, I still don't even know until when I hang up my boots and say, I look back and I go, you know, you did well.
So there's me. Yeah. Went to Bristol Rovers and straight away just struggled. Started getting injured, lost a bit of confidence and sort of didn't get on with the manager, and all of a sudden week after week I wasn't playing. I was injured for 6 months and started thinking, I don't know if I want to play anymore. And I went non-league and all of a sudden I'm working then at night time on London Underground, and you're going from football to work, and it just become, I was glad when it finished, to be honest, which is quite sad for me because I left my friends and family from Dublin just for one reason, and that was the only reason with football. It wouldn't be for anything else, and now I barely watch it, to be honest.
I had many ups and downs when I was over in England. I was there for 8 years, and that fourth year I couldn't have got any better. I just won the FAU Cup, like I said, and just won the European Championship. Like I think I was 17. As a 17-year-old, what else do you have to achieve at that age? You know, my aim was to try and break into the first team, which I found an awful lot harder because you're competing against international players, a squad of 40-odd players. The mountain becomes Everest then, you know. It's no longer this little hill that you can achieve. So what I found out then is that it becomes an awful lot tougher than you expect it to be, you know. And though I went to a few dark places, as I'm sure every footballer does, like any Irish lad that goes across, you're going to have those nights where you just think, is it all worth it, or am I going to see this out, am I going to stick it out, you know. But it's probably a reason why I'm still playing, like, because there's still a bit of fire in me, I believe, that like that hasn't gone out yet, you know. And until it does, then I'll probably, you know, play until the wheels come off.
There's been a good mix in the terms of happy and sad stories, in the sense of 20 years later, here I am, still battering away, having a career, and that just comes from your own, I think, your own personal passion and desire to want to keep playing.
A good career, a bad career, whatever, it doesn't define the man. They were all just top guys that worked so hard and were so proud to pull on the jersey for the country.
What happened in the years that followed was a lot of other, associations made huge progress. English football, which was almost the exclusive destination for the players who we sent away, exploded financially, and they started, sourcing players from absolutely all over the world. So, immediately the Irish, Scots, Welsh were being bumped down the pecking order a bit. You had to be that bit more exceptional to make it to a big club, and the FAI here was a long way off sort of getting its act together in terms of bedding in an alternative way of developing young players. Things here were still run by a handful of schoolboy clubs who dominated the scene completely. Brian at the time, I remember we were talking to Brian after the final in Cyprus, and he was already talking about how the lessons that could be learned from the other countries, what they had been doing.
It had to be enjoyable for them. They were young players away. We didn't want them to be going to a semi-prison for the sake of trying to win a tournament. We wanted them to go where they could have a bit of freedom and make decisions themselves, and go out for a walk and have a bit of crack, and sit in a McDonald's on the sly and have a McDonald's when we weren't looking. But we'd know about it anyway. But we were prepared to put up with that for the sake of the greater good, of their morale, the performances in the games, what they gave back to each other and us in terms of trying to win the matches.
Personally, it was amazing to help that individual growth as a player, and obviously it got me on the career path to Manchester. So that was very special.
It was just a good time for Irish football, and I hope that them days certainly do come back, because it's crying out for another few superstars to come through.
Amazing times, they worked so well together, I guess, and we were all devastated and still miss Noel dearly, and he's a big loss to Irish football, obviously, and Brian is as well, because he's not involved. But they were just like Bill and Ben, the best mates around.
And I remember wanting to go up to Brian and to just, I don't know what I was going to say, just say, at the end of a group, you just say, cheers for everything, best of luck at whatever is next, and, hope you pick me again. I don't know what I was going to say, but I remember going, don't, because you'll start crying. Because just the emotion of the trip, we were like exhausted physically and emotionally probably by the end. We'd been away so long, been on the road so long, that I never said thanks. Haven't said it to him since either, actually.
We tried to bring a bit of joy to wherever we went in our own way.
Ireland are the champions of Europe for the second time in 2 months.
We might even go to McDonald's. What do you think? Huh? Would you like that? Don't tell your ma.